There is one thing I didn't slow down enough to realize until many years later. No one steals your time unless you leave the door open. I used to be the kind of person who woke up every morning full of excitement with a whole list of things I wanted to do. But then with just a few favors, a few requests, it's just a small thing, can you help me real quick? My entire day suddenly belonged to someone else. I didn't find that strange until I looked back and realized the most important years of my life had slipped away doing things that had nothing to do with the future I wanted. Have you ever felt that way? The feeling of your day slipping through your fingers like water, not because you didn't have a plan, but because someone else had a plan for you first. At that point, I asked myself, how can I change my life if I can't even take charge of a single day? And then I understood this. Time will never belong to you until you set boundaries for it. Not boundaries to push people away, but boundaries to protect the person you are trying to become. In today's video, I want to share with you 10 principles I wish I had learned earlier. Principles that changed the way I saw time, changed the way I treated myself, and changed the entire path of my success. If you feel your life is being pulled in 1,000 directions, if you no longer have time for what truly matters, or if you're simply living busy instead of progressing, then this video is for you. And at the end, I want to give you a perspective that could change the future you're heading toward. A perspective which, if you truly understand, will ensure you never let anyone decide your time ever again. Principle 1, the narrow path. If you don't choose your direction, someone else will choose it for you. There was a morning long ago when I walked down a small dirt path leading into town. On both sides were tall grasses up to my knees. The path was so narrow that if you leaned even a little, you'd step right into the wild field. I loved that little road because every time I walked it, it reminded me of an important lesson. The narrower the path, the more carefully you must choose each step. Life is the same. If you don't clearly choose your own path, others will pull you onto theirs. And the sad thing is, most people don't mean to harm you, they're just living their own lives. But unintentionally, they take away your life. The day I realized that, I was nearly 30. On the surface, my life looked fine. I helped many people, was always ready to support, always said, sure, I'll do it, I've got time. But deep down, I was exhausted. I felt my life wasn't moving forward. I was walking, but not on my path. I was walking on the map someone else handed me. Someone asked me to help them move. I went. Someone asked me to drive them somewhere. I went. Someone needed me to listen to them complain. I sat for hours. And then one afternoon, I looked back at my entire week and realized I hadn't done a single thing that belonged to me. My path had disappeared not because it was hard, but because I had stopped walking on it. You know something? People don't need to intentionally steal your time. They only need you not to choose. To not say, this is my day. To not say, this is my direction. And your life gets invaded little by little. I didn't realize that until I met an older man in town. He looked calm, wise. He looked at me and said something I never forgot. Jim, if you don't know where you want to go, anyone who pulls your hand will take you along. That sentence cut straight through my way of living. I realized my kindness was costing me my own life, not because I helped others, but because I didn't help myself. Your path needs to be chosen every day. Not once a year, every day. Because every day, someone will want to pull you away. Not because they're bad, but because they have their own path. And if you don't hold yours, you'll step onto theirs. From that day on, I started doing something simple, but it changed everything. I wrote down my path for that day. Just the 3 most important things. And the strange thing was, once I chose my path, I knew when to say yes and when to say no. Because I no longer chose by emotion, I chose by direction. You see, the narrow path is not for the hesitant. The narrow path is for those who know what they want. And when you stand firm on your path, you'll notice something beautiful. The right people will respect your boundaries. The wrong people will naturally drift away, and your life will begin to move forward. Because in the end, life does not belong to the person who pulls you the hardest. It belongs to the person you choose. And then when I learned to choose my own path, I realized something even more important. The path is narrow, but around it there must be a fence. Because if you don't build one, people will still step in without asking. And that was when the second principle appeared, the time fence principle. Principle 2, the time fence. Boundaries aren't to push people away, but to protect what matters. I used to live next to an old farmer named Miller. He had a small piece of land, but it was beautiful and carefully tended. What caught my attention wasn't the trees, it was the old wooden fence running around his farm. One morning I asked him, "Mr. Miller, why do you keep this old fence? It looks so simple, not very sturdy." He looked at the fence, then at me, and spoke slowly. "Jim, fences aren't meant to block everything out. They're meant to show people whose land this is." That sentence struck my heart. Years later, looking back at my life, I realized I had never built a fence around my time. I let anyone step in, anytime, for any reason. Someone knocked, I opened. Someone called, I answered. Someone needed me. I put my own work aside. I didn't realize that when you have no boundaries, you quietly send this message to the world. My time isn't important. Take as much as you want. And the world will not hesitate. There was a time when I tried to please everyone. If someone needed something, I helped. I thought it was kindness. But the more I did it, the more drained I became. I no longer recognized my own life. I did a lot, but saw no results. I went far, but didn't know where I was going. One late evening, walking past Mr. Miller's land, I saw his wooden fence glowing faintly under the moonlight. And suddenly, I understood what he meant. Without a fence, your crops will be trampled before you can harvest them. Life is the same. Without boundaries, your goals are torn apart before they can take shape. The time fence isn't coldness. It is respect, first and foremost, respect for yourself. I started building fences in the smallest ways. I set hours when no one was allowed to interrupt. I practiced saying, "I'm in the middle of something important." I learned to say, "Not today." And most importantly, I began believing that I deserved time for myself. The surprising thing was that when I built fences, the people who truly respected me began respecting those boundaries. And the people who used me stepped back. Turns out boundaries don't push people away. They simply let the right ones stay and the wrong ones leave. Another interesting thing I learned, the clearer the fence, the freer you become. It sounds contradictory, but think about it. When you know what belongs to you and what doesn't, you no longer live in confusion. You no longer need to please everyone. You no longer force a smile when your mind is screaming that you're exhausted. Fences help you save your energy for what matters. Time for family, for personal growth, for meaningful work, for unfinished dreams. Without a fence, your life is land anyone can walk into. With a fence, your life becomes land that has an owner. One day, I went back to Mr. Miller and asked, "How do you know where the fence needs repair?" He laughed. "Easy, Jim, just look at the spots that get trampled the most." I looked at my life. Where was I being invaded the most? Where was I constantly pleasing? Where did people keep stepping in? And I began building fences exactly where they were weakest, the softest parts of my day. From then on, life changed. I had space to think, time to do bigger things, quiet to listen to myself. You know something? The time fence is not something you build once. It's something you rebuild every day. And each time you raise it, your life returns to you a little more. When I built my first fence, I thought that was enough. But it wasn't. I soon realized something else. Boundaries only work when you don't react too quickly. Because often, time isn't stolen because someone walks in, but because you open the door too fast. Principle 3, why silence? Not every request needs an immediate answer. I used to have a habit that, looking back, cost me countless hours, countless opportunities, countless precious days. The habit was simple: answering immediately. Someone asked, I replied. Someone requested, I agreed. Someone proposed, I nodded. I reacted so quickly. I didn't even know what I had just agreed to. I didn't think. I didn't pause. I didn't take even a single breath. And so I lived by reaction instead of by choice. One afternoon years ago, I was sitting in my small workspace. On the table was a list of goals I planned for the week, but the desk was covered with favors. I had assigned myself requests for help, urgent messages from acquaintances, appointments I couldn't remember agreeing to. I looked at them and understood. I didn't choose these things. I just reacted to them. At that moment, I remembered an old conversation with a wise teacher. He said, "Jim, most of life's energy isn't drained because people pull you away, but because you don't give yourself a moment of silence to see if you even want to go." Silence. 2 simple words, yet exactly what I had lost. You see, humans have a strange instinct. When someone says, "Do you have a minute?" we immediately feel obligated to answer right away, as if being slow for just a second is impolite, as if thinking means we're selfish. But the truth is the complete opposite. Wise people never answer quickly, not because they're arrogant, but because they respect their own time. They know a rushed yes can cost them an entire afternoon. A reflexive nod can delay their goals for a week. A quick decision can lead to long-term exhaustion. I started practicing silence, not cold silence, but silence to hear myself. When someone asked for help, I didn't answer right away. I took a slow breath. I let a few seconds pass, and I asked myself, does this belong on my path today? Is this within my time fence? Or am I just reacting out of habit? That silence saved me. To my surprise, I found myself gaining more time, thinking more clearly, doing deeper work. Not because I said no more often, but because I said yes more wisely. Then I discovered this: silence before agreeing is the mark of someone who owns their life. Instant reaction is the mark of someone being controlled by life. Another time, someone came to me one morning speaking urgently. Jim, I need your help with something right now. In the past, I would have dropped everything to follow that request. But that day, I paused. I smiled and said, give me a few minutes to think. They were surprised. I was calm. During those few minutes, I realized the matter wasn't nearly as urgent as it sounded. I could help, but not immediately. I told them I would do it at the end of the day. And guess what? They completely agreed. Turns out, things are only urgent when you have no boundaries. From that experience, I realized a brief silence doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. That silent moment is where you check whether the request is necessary, whether it fits your goals, whether it lies within your time fence, whether it will steal your day. It is the doorway that protects your future. I often tell my students, learn to pause for just a moment. Most of life's mistakes come from half a second of rushing. People will respect you more when you take time to think. They see you have your own decisions. They understand your time has value. They learn that they can't just pull you off your path. Wise silence is not refusal. It is the right to choose. A right that, when you use it, brings your life back to you piece by piece. When I began pausing before agreeing, I realized something even deeper. It's not always others who steal my time. Sometimes, I am the one planting the seeds that waste it. Principle 4, the field of life. What you plant, time will nurture. I grew up in an area with many farms. The farmers there didn't talk much about philosophy, but they understood life in a very special way, simple, yet so deep that the longer you live, the more you see how true it is. And one of the things I learned from them is this: the field never rejects a seed. Whether you plant good seeds or bad seeds, the field will care for them the same. It will nurture them and then multiply what you planted many times over. One day, I was sitting with a farmer in town. He pointed to the wide field in front of us and said, Jim, the soil doesn't choose. People do. Back then, I just smiled. But many years later, when my life fell into chaos, I began to understand that sentence in my own way. There were days when I felt endlessly busy, one thing after another. One request after another. I kept moving, but inside I felt empty, not because I was doing too little, but because I was planting the wrong seeds. I was planting other people's seeds, the just help me a little kind of tasks, the sudden requests, the conversations that led me nowhere, the afternoons spent on things I never chose. And then time, like the soil, nurtured those seeds. It let them sprout, grow, spread, until I looked at the field of my life and could no longer recognize it. It wasn't the field I wanted to grow. It was someone else's field. One morning, I remember sitting alone in a small room. I looked at my schedule and saw dozens of things I had to do, but only 2 truly important ones, 2 worthy seeds. Then I looked back at the time that had passed, a week, a month, even several years, and I saw that I hadn't planted many good seeds at all. I spent that whole morning just thinking. And in the end, I accepted a truth I had been avoiding. Time hadn't taken anything away from me. I was the one using time to feed meaningless things. I wasn't being harmed by others. I was simply scattering seeds carelessly. I decided to change, starting with one simple question, but powerful enough to turn my whole life around. What seeds deserve to be planted in today? Not this week, not this month. Today, because life doesn't change by the year. It changes day by day, by each small decision, by each seed you choose. From that day on, I wrote down 3 important seeds for each day. Just 3. 3 things that would move my life forward, even just a little. Everything else, no matter how important it sounded, was just seeds that others wanted to plant in my field. I learned to respect those 3 seeds, not letting unexpected calls pull me away, not letting favors erase what I had planned, not letting people-pleasing make me abandon my goals. You know, when you choose good seeds and protect them, time will be on your side. It will nurture them, help them take root, settle into the soil, and bloom into results you never imagined. The seeds won't betray you. Time won't either. Only your lack of discernment will. And the beautiful thing is this: life doesn't care how many bad seeds you planted in the past. It only cares what you choose from today on. The field will be clean again if you're willing to clear the weeds. The future will change if you choose new seeds. And your life will turn a new page when you can say, today I will plant what truly belongs to me. What you plant, time will nurture. No more, no less. When I learned to choose my seeds each day, I realized something else important. The seeds may be good, but if the one planting them isn't steady, the harvest still fails. There were days I knew exactly what I should do, but just because I got swept into someone else's pace, I lost my direction again. Principle 5, the inner clock. Those who master time don't rush, but they don't let anyone drag them along either. I still remember the first time I met Mr. Schoaf, the mentor who changed the way I saw life. He wasn't someone who spoke fast. He wasn't impatient. But what surprised me most wasn't what he said. It was his rhythm. That rhythm was different. Not rushed, not slow, not pulled by anyone. It was steady, like a clock inside him, ticking on its own. I used to live the opposite way. My rhythm was set by other people. People called, I ran. People needed me, I dropped what I was doing. People were in a hurry, I rushed with their urgency. I lived like a dry leaf blown by the wind. Whoever blew harder. I flew toward that person. Until one day, Mr. Schoaf said to me, Jim, don't live by other people's rhythm. Everyone needs an inner clock of their own. I asked, how do I know if I'm living by my own rhythm? He answered very slowly, as if he wanted each word to sink in. You'll know when you're no longer reacting to the world, but the world starts adjusting to you. I took that sentence home and thought about it for days. Gradually, I understood. The inner clock is your ability to control the pace of your life. No one teaches us that in school. We're taught how to read the time, measure hours, count minutes and seconds, but no one teaches us how to own time. Mastering time doesn't mean doing things faster. It doesn't mean doing more. It means holding your pace so you don't get swept away. In the years that followed, I observed the successful people I knew. There was one thing they all had in common that stunned me. They weren't busy in a chaotic way. They moved slowly but surely. They spoke little, but their words carried weight. They didn't handle everything immediately. And most importantly, no one could knock them out of rhythm. I remember once talking with a very successful friend of Mr. Schoaf's. While he was sharing, someone knocked on the door, but he didn't turn around right away. He just said, wait a moment, I'm in the middle of something. His rhythm didn't change. That calmness amazed me. And me? Just one knock on the door and I would jump up. Just one call, and I felt I had to answer immediately. I let the world tug my heartbeat up and down, faster and slower on their terms, until I practiced something very simple. Pause one beat before reacting. Strangely enough, my pace of life began to change. I began to see clearly who truly needed me and who was just using me to unload their problems. I began to see clearly what was worth my time and what was just noise. And I began to understand something bigger. People who don't have their own rhythm will always live on a rhythm borrowed from others. One morning, I was writing in my room when someone called me to come outside. My old habit urged me to jump up immediately. But this time, I stopped. I took a slow breath, looked at my notebook and asked myself, is what I'm doing important enough to stay? The answer was yes. I kept writing. When I went out later, that person didn't complain at all. Turns out, the world doesn't collapse when you keep your own rhythm. From that moment, I understood something profound. Haste is the greatest enemy of time. It makes us lose our power to choose. It makes us lose our presence. It makes us lose what truly matters. People with a strong inner clock share 3 qualities. 1, calm enough not to be dragged away. 2, clear enough to know what is worthy. 3, steady enough to say no when needed. And these 3 things, no one is born with them. They are the result of training your rhythm every day. You don't need to live slower. You just need to live at your own pace. And when that pace becomes steady, the world will begin to adjust to you. People will ask before they request. People will respect your time. People will sense that you are someone with direction, focus, and a future. Your inner clock is the compass that leads you through stormy days without being swept away by noise, scattered by other people's demands, or overwhelmed by life's rush. When you keep your rhythm, you keep yourself. But when my pace of life started to stabilize, I discovered something else important. That discipline is not made of big decisions. It starts from very small movements, micro habits. Principle 6, microdiscipline. 5 minutes decide the next 5 hours. There is something I learned fairly late in life. Discipline is not made of big decisions. People often think discipline means standing up dramatically, changing your life completely, doing something extreme. But most of life doesn't run on big moments like that. Life is decided by small movements. Quiet actions, things that are invisible to the eye. I call them microdisciplines. Years ago, I always thought I lacked discipline. I would start something with great determination, then lose focus. I'd make a beautiful plan, then let others walk right into it. I wanted to complete a full, meaningful day, and then lost it to trivial things. Until one morning, I watched Mr. Miller, the old farmer I respected. He worked slowly, steadily, without rushing. And what caught my attention most was the way he started his morning. Nothing grand. He just did 3 small things. Tightened his straps, checked his tools, and swept a small path in front of the barn. Those 3 small things took only about 5 minutes, but they kept his whole morning from falling into disorder. I asked him, "Why do you do these things every day? They don't seem that important." He smiled and answered, "Jim, the first 5 minutes decide the next 5 hours." That sentence stayed with me for many years. The older I got, the more I realized he was absolutely right. Most of a day isn't lost because of some big event. It's lost because small habits are not protected. If you let your first 5 minutes get pulled into someone's sudden request, you'll lose 5 hours. If you let your phone slip in right as you begin working, your whole morning will be scrambled. If you don't create your own rhythm at the start of the day, you'll spend the whole day dragged along by someone else's rhythm. On the other hand, with just a bit of microdiscipline, each day will move in the direction you want. I began changing with 3 initial microdisciplines. First, 5 minutes to block out noise. Just 5 minutes. I turned off my phone, closed the door, and told myself, this is my hour. That alone kept most things from pulling me off my path. Second, 5 minutes to define the 3 priorities of the day. Not 30 goals, just 3. The 3 seeds I had to plant. I wrote them down, looked at them, and committed to them. Third, 5 minutes to reset my rhythm. Breathing, drinking a glass of water, sitting still for a few seconds, letting my mind know that this day belongs to me, not to anyone else. The whole process was just 15 minutes. But you know what? It saved me from dozens of lost hours. People think discipline means trying really hard. But what I learned is this. Discipline is protecting the small things before they turn into big chaos. A person without microdiscipline is like a farmer who leaves the barn door slightly open. Just a small gap, but that's enough for the whole herd to run out. Or for wild animals to come in and destroy the crops. Time is the same. It's not lost because of big things. It's lost through tiny cracks. I remember once losing half a day just because I let someone step in right when I hadn't yet protected my first 5 minutes. Just one, "Can you help me a bit?" And I lost my flow, lost my rhythm, lost my focus. That was when I realized. Protecting microdiscipline is protecting the lifeblood of your entire day. If you keep the first 5 minutes, you keep the next 5 hours. Keep the 5 hours, you keep the whole week. Keep the week, and you keep a lifetime. If at this point you feel this speaks to your own journey, please like and subscribe so I know you're still walking this path with me. When I strengthened those small habits, I began to feel like I had more time, not because the day got longer, but because I let less of it leak away. But then I faced another problem. Not every request is clear, and not every task is worthy of being accepted. Principle 7, the 3 questions, the gate of time control. When I had trained my micro habits, I began to see my days more clearly. But the more I progressed, the more I ran into a problem many people also face. Not every request is easy to refuse. Some requests come from family. Some tasks sound important. Some offers feel urgent. Because of that, I was stuck for a long period of time. I had built fences. I had my own rhythm. I knew how to say no, but I was still losing time, simply because I couldn't tell which things were truly worthy of entering my day. Until one day, an older friend whom I always saw as very wise said to me, "Jim, everything that comes into your life has to pass through a gate, and the one guarding that gate is you." I asked, "How do I know whether to open the gate or not?" He just said 3 words, the 3 questions. From that day on, I began practicing a new principle, the time control gate principle, and it saved me from countless waste. Those 3 questions seem simple, but they are powerful enough to change how I use my time forever. The first question, does this belong on my path today? This is the most important question, because most of the time we lose doesn't come from bad things, but from things that don't belong to us. Someone asks you to do a good thing, but it's not in the direction you're going. Someone needs your support, but it's unrelated to your main focus. An opportunity sounds bright, but it's not aligned with the goals you've set. I used to throw away dozens of mornings just because this question wasn't asked. Everything sounded good. Everything sounded worthwhile. Everything was just a little thing. But you know what? Life doesn't measure you by how many things you do. It measures you by how on course you are. If it doesn't belong on your path today, the gate stays closed. Just that, and half the noise in my life disappeared. The second question, if I take this on, what important thing will be pushed back? I didn't know to ask this before. I used to think that helping someone for 10 minutes wouldn't hurt, but those 10 minutes took away 20 minutes of focus, took away a key rhythm, took away a small opportunity I couldn't see at the time. And so I stepped back from my own life a little more each day. Once I stopped working on an important plan to deal with an urgent matter for an acquaintance. That matter turned out not to be urgent at all. But my plan lost all momentum, and I ended up delaying it for several more days. I realized this: everything we take on has a price, not paid in money, but in time and attention. If a new task makes you drop something older and more important, the gate stays closed. The third question, can this wait? There is a truth that took me a long time to understand. Other people's urgency is not your responsibility. They may be in a hurry. They may be worried. They may want you to do it right now, but that doesn't mean you have to break your own flow. I remember one afternoon, someone rushed to my door saying they needed my help urgently. I was in the middle of writing a speech. In the past, I would have stood up immediately. But that day, I asked myself, can this wait? The answer was yes. I finished my work first, then helped them afterward. And you know what? Nothing bad happened. The world didn't collapse. That person wasn't angry at me. I just protected my day. These 3 questions are simple, but together they form a gate of steel. If you use them every day, your life will change quietly but deeply. Question 1 keeps you on course. Question 2 keeps you from losing what matters. Question 3 protects you from other people's panic. And when you become the one who controls the gate of time, you'll find your life less chaotic, your days less shattered, your mind less tired. Because in the end, freedom doesn't come from having a lot of time. Freedom comes from deciding what is allowed to enter and what must stay outside the gate. When I became familiar with guarding the gate of time, I realized something frightening. Many times I was the one opening the gate too wide simply because I said yes too easily. Principle 8, personal sovereignty. Every yes you say is a no to your future. There were seasons of my life when, looking back, I couldn't understand why I was so exhausted. I worked all day, chased dozens of small tasks, helped one person after another, but when night came, I didn't feel like my life had moved forward at all. And then an image appeared in my mind, the image of a field trampled flat, not by storms, not by wild animals, but because the owner left the gate too wide open. I realized that most of the time I lost wasn't taken by others invading my life, but given away by me through one simple word, yes. In the past, I said yes very quickly. Whatever someone asked, I agreed. Whatever someone proposed, I accepted. Whatever someone needed, I tried to help. I didn't want anyone to be disappointed. I didn't want anyone to think I was cold. I wanted to be liked, to be appreciated. But the price of being easygoing was my own future. One evening, I sat down and looked through my notebook. I looked at the list of things I had done over the week, and I discovered something that made me pause. There were far too many yeses that had nothing to do with my life. Yes to unnecessary tasks. Yes to things others could have done themselves. Yes to invitations that brought no value. Yes to duties that covered up my bigger goals. Every yes I said to others was a no I said to myself. A mentor once told me, "Jim, the future is not stolen. It is traded away bit by bit through yeses said at the wrong time." And as I looked more closely, I realized how dangerous yes is because it seems harmless. It's small. It's light. It feels like a simple act of kindness. But every yes is a seed, and time, as the soil, will nourish it. Then you'll harvest exactly what you planted. I realized that if I planted too many unnecessary yes seeds, the field of my life would be covered with things that didn't belong to me at all. Until one day, I met with Mr. Schoaf again. He looked at me and asked, "Jim, how many times did you say yes this week?" I laughed. "A lot." He shook his head. "The problem isn't how many times you said yes. It's what you had to say no to because of those yeses." That question left me silent for a long time. And then I understood, whoever hasn't mastered their yes hasn't truly mastered their life. From that day on, I started an exercise I still keep today. Whenever I'm about to say yes, I pause for 3 seconds, just 3 seconds, and I ask myself 3 things. Does this yes bring me closer to my path? Will this yes cost me my most important hour of the day? Is this yes worth the trade? Do you know what I discovered? Many of my yeses were just fear dressed up nicely. Fear of being judged. Fear of upsetting others. Fear that people wouldn't like me. But you cannot build a future on fear. You can only build it on sovereignty. The freedom to choose what truly belongs to you. Once, I refused to help an acquaintance immediately because I was in the middle of something important. I told them I would help later in the afternoon. In the past, I would have felt guilty. But that day, I felt calm. And what surprised me was that they completely understood. I realized the world doesn't expect you to always say yes. It just expects you to be clear. When you live with sovereignty, you become a person of weight. Your words carry more trust. Your time is more respected. Others begin to learn what is truly worthy of asking you for. I want you to remember this. Yes is a promise. Yes is a commitment. Yes is a piece of your life that you hand over to someone else. If you give it away too easily, you'll see your future wear down day by day quietly, but for real. But if you give it in the right places, you'll see your life slowly return to the right path. Personal sovereignty is not selfishness. It is the foundation of maturity. It is how you tell your life. I deserve a clear future and I will protect it. When I learned to say yes more selectively, I began to notice something interesting. Even when you say yes at the right time, life still has hidden currents pulling you away, currents that don't come from other people, but from the chaotic world around you. Principle 9, the flow. Time only serves those who know how to block out chaos. There were days when I didn't lose time because of other people, didn't lose it because of favors, didn't lose it because of weak boundaries, but I still lost it, quietly, in ways hard to notice, like water seeping through cracks in stone. I lost time to the invisible currents around me. The noise of life, nameless little things, wandering thoughts, unregulated emotions. One afternoon, I stood by a small river near my home. The water looked calm, gentle, but when I dropped a small branch onto it, it was carried away immediately. Not because the current was strong, but because it was subtle, not loud, not violent, yet strong enough to take away anything that wasn't firmly anchored, and I understood. Life has currents just like that. Not loud, but always there. Not fierce, but always pulling you along. Not obvious, but strong enough to take away your entire day. I used to think that time was lost because of big things. But in reality, most time disappears because of small disturbances. A sound that makes you look out the window. A random thought that pulls you away from your work. A minor task that breaks your concentration. A passing emotion that slows you down for hours. They're tiny, so small you treat them as normal. But if you let them run unchecked, your whole life will flow along with them. I remember having many days like that. I woke up with 3 clear goals. But then, I let my mind drift to what others were doing. I let a short conversation stretch into hours. I let a vague emotion push me into stagnation. I let the noise outside control the rhythm inside. At the end of the day, I'd ask myself, what did I actually get done today? And the answer made me sad. I had done many things, but none that truly belonged to my path. Another time, I went back to the river outside town. This time, I noticed that along the riverbank, some sections were reinforced with large stones. The current couldn't wash anything away in those spots. I asked a nearby local. He said, if you want to protect the bank, you stop the small currents. You don't wait for the flood. That sentence stunned me because it was true for my life as well. You don't protect your time by stopping storms. You protect it by stopping disturbances. Disturbance is the noise of life, unimportant matters, impulsive emotions, wandering thoughts, little tasks that slip in, habits of distraction, people who talk without purpose, comments that pull your attention away minus. Disturbance doesn't destroy a whole day. It destroys your focus, the very thing that defines the day. I learned to block the flow in 3 simple steps. Step 1, notice it. If you don't recognize disturbance, you'll live with it as if it's a natural part of your life. I began to notice, when does my mind step off my path? When do I slow down? When do I get pulled away by thoughts from nowhere? Step 2, reset the rhythm. Just pause for a few seconds, take a deep breath, sit still for a moment. That is how you bring yourself back to the bank and stop being carried away. Step 3, build boundaries against the current. I chose hours when no one was allowed to interrupt me. I chose what I would not allow into my day. I chose silence so that time could have space to work. Those things weren't big, but they were like rocks along the riverbank. They kept the water from sweeping away what mattered. One day, I realized a simple truth that changed my life. You don't need to control everything. You just need to control the flow that runs through you. The one who knows how to block disturbance is the one who knows how to keep focus. The one who knows how to keep focus is the one who knows how to keep time. The one who knows how to keep time is ultimately the one who knows how to keep their life. When I learned how to block those disruptive currents, I realized that life doesn't just need clarity, it also needs stillness. It's the stillness that gives us the strength to walk steadily. Principle 10, the 10-minute stillness. The quiet moments decide the direction. I used to think life changed because of explosive moments, big pushes, fierce decisions that turn everything around. But the longer I live, the more I realize I was wrong. Life doesn't change because of loud moments. It changes because of small silences. One morning, many years ago, I woke up with a heavy feeling. I wasn't sure why. Maybe because too many people needed me. Maybe because I'd let too many demands crowd into my day. Or maybe because I had been running for too long without stopping to ask myself, Jim, where are you actually going? I walked out into the yard. The morning dew was still on the grass. It was so quiet I could hear the wind weaving through the trees. I sat down on an old chair by the porch and just sat, not doing anything, not thinking about anything, not deciding anything, just sitting. 10 minutes passed very slowly, but also very deeply. And in those 10 minutes, for the first time in a long while, I saw myself clearly. I realized I had let my time be pulled away by the noise of life. I realized I had said far too many yeses. I realized I had been running on other people's rhythm. I realized I had been planting the wrong seeds for many days. All of that was revealed in 10 minutes of stillness. Stillness is not standing still. Stillness is seeing what you've been avoiding. It is hearing the inner voice you've ignored for too long. It is creating space so your mind can untie the knots it's been carrying. When I began giving 10 minutes a day to stillness, my life started changing in a very strange yet natural way, not dramatically, not loudly, but deeply and steadily. Stillness showed me what truly mattered. Stillness showed me what I had been avoiding. Stillness showed me what needed to be released. Stillness showed me what should be prioritized. And most importantly, stillness reminded me that I still had the right to choose my direction. People are afraid of stillness. They're afraid of facing themselves. They're afraid of the emptiness when there's nothing to keep them busy. But it's precisely in that emptiness that we hear the voice of wisdom. A farmer I knew once said, Jim, the soil can't bear fruit if it never rests, and people are the same. You can't walk all your life if you have nowhere to pause. You can't think clearly if your mind is never restored. You can't protect your time if you never sit in silence to see where it's flowing. 10 minutes of stillness a day sounds small, but in reality, it is the steering wheel of your entire life. In those 10 minutes, I often ask myself three things. Where do I truly want to go today? What is pulling me off course? What do I need to let go of to feel lighter? Sometimes I find the answers right away. Sometimes I don't. But the important thing isn't the answer. It's the fact that I asked. Those questions keep me from getting lost. They are like a compass, constantly reminding me to return to my chosen direction. Once, someone asked me, "Jim, why are just 10 minutes so important?" I smiled and said, "Because without these 10 minutes, the next 10 hours will drift along with someone else's current." Stillness doesn't slow me down. It helps me go right. And when you're going right, you move faster than anyone who's rushing. We like to think progress comes from action, but sometimes progress comes from pausing for a moment. Stillness is where we see where we're really standing. Stillness is where we correct our direction before we go too far off course. Stillness is where we reclaim energy that's been drained by noise. And more than anything, stillness is where we reaffirm our sovereignty. When I look back on my journey from the narrow path to the first fence, the moments of silence, the seeds I chose, the inner clock, the micro habits, the 3 questions at the gate of time, to the 10 minutes of stillness each day, I understand that time was never the real problem. The problem was who I allowed to use it. When I look back on my journey from the narrow path to the first fence, the quiet pauses, the seeds I chose, the inner clock, the micro disciplines, the 3 questions at the gate of time, to the 10 minutes of daily stillness, I realized something I never understood years ago. Time never abandons us. We are the ones who abandon our own time. No one truly steals your time. They only walk in when your gate is already open. They only enter when your fence isn't built. They only pull you away when your rhythm isn't strong enough. A day is not stolen by something big. It's taken by small moments, a bit of people-pleasing, a bit of distraction, a bit of lost focus, a bit of missing stillness. But just like any season, as long as you start planting the right seeds again, in the right way, in the right direction, your life will bloom again in a completely new shape. I don't know what stage of life you're in right now, but I do know this. You deserve a day that belongs to you, not to anyone else. And if you can protect one day, you can protect an entire year. And if you can protect a year, you can change your whole life. Start tomorrow. Or start tonight. Write down the 3 seeds you want to plant. Build a small fence. Keep a 10-minute quiet space just for yourself. And let time become your greatest ally. If what you heard today resonated with you, please like this video so YouTube knows you want to see more content like this. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next lessons from Jim Rohn Treasures. Leave a comment. What is stealing your time the most right now? I will read every comment. See you again in the next videos.